So I just want to speak a bit on this idea of a national shutdown, mass protest action, and most recently, in terms of what has given the national shutdown sort of conversation even more muscle, is the different groups that are busy galvanizing, saying that they want to or aiming to disrupt the G20 summit that's taking place between the 22nd and the 23rd of November.
South Africa very much is a country that likes to complain online but then doesn't take it to the next level. Mm-hmm. You have to inconvenience our politicians and the people in charge.
Sure.
Your march has to take place on a Monday.
Mm-hmm.
It must stop traffic. Mm-hmm. You must decide that nobody's buying anything. Shab, we're still buying from spaza shops because we don't want mamzos to go out of business because they are the breadwinners of this country.
But not the multinationals.
Yeah.
Suffer.
To decide one day and say, nobody is going into a mall on this day. Let's do an economic shutdown. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only time the people in charge wake up.
Sure.
Is when it affects their pockets.
Directly.
Immediately.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's almost as if there has to be a way to transition from digital to physical. Because digital is not enough. We've seen our leaders aren't shamed by anything.
No. Shameless.
You can't shame them.
Shameless.
You can't shame them on social media and say this and that and that. Whereas, once you stop traffic, once you shut down the economy, we see taxi drivers do it all the time.
Yeah.
When those guys decide they're going on strike, the whole economy stops.
And it works. All the time.
You also have that power as a person. But
Yeah.
we need to find a way to mobilize. But there's always a tipping point. And I think South Africa is going towards that.
We are also seeing at the same time anti-immigration or anti sort of illegal foreigner protests that are taking place across the country.
Well, we're on our way now from Durban City Hall to Point Road. Point Road is a place that has been taken over by Nigerians, and it is now called Lagos. And the point is that we cannot have places in South Africa where we as South Africans are scared to go there. This place is known for drugs. There's a lot of drugs going on there. There's a lot of human trafficking, a lot of prostitution, a lot of everything that's going on that is criminal activity done by foreigners in this country. And we want to say to our government, the police are now always when they are talking about Point Road, because everyone thinks it's normal to have places that we can't go to as South Africans. It's not going to happen anymore. We are tired. Time for South Africans to be put first. And Point Road, they must know it's South Africa, so it belongs to South Africans. It's not Nigeria. It's not Nigeria.
And just today, I was busy on TikTok. I saw that the Women for Change organization is also ramping up or organizing what they're calling the G20 Women's Shutdown on the 21st of November, the day before the G20 summit commences.
On the 21st of November, we are all, as women, going to wear all black. And we're going to turn our profile pictures, TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram profile picture, purple.
Now, all of these different mass protests and people just coming together, they are doing so in the name of super important issues, really, really important issues that are affecting and harming our society in different ways. I think it's important that we bring into the conversation, or that I state right now, that our systems, unfortunately, do not respond to protest action alone. The most important follow-through after the gatherings, after we shut down, the most important follow-through, I just want to state this, is that we need to now galvanize against the current political player, the current regime, which is the African National Congress, the current player in our political space that holds a lot of power, that is currently dominant. So after the July 2021 unrest, which I thought this would be a relevant example because this is very recent in our history. A lot of us remember clearly what was happening. I think it was about 2 weeks long. We all have a clear memory of where we were, what we saw, the scenes and the images that we saw, whether you saw through TV or even saw these things live. It was really massive in terms of the impact, right? And I'm not saying that the July unrest is similar to the other protests that I mentioned. July unrest was a mostly, violent and it was mostly illegal. Hence, there were arrests after the fact. But if you talk about a mass sort of gathering that had real pressure in South Africa over a long span, it was over a week of these actions that we saw, despite the fact that with that pressure, with the chaos, 4 months later, right, we had the 2021 local elections, and the hardest hit provinces, which was mostly KZN, because remember that July unrest was sparked by Zuma's arrest, which then began in KZN and further spread into Gauteng. And when eventually they spread, it became clear that, well, what was really agitating the masses wasn't necessarily Zuma going to jail, but it was also the fact that, there was just so many problems. The very same problems we still have today. What I just want to state here is that KZN, as well as Gauteng, still returned ANC majorities at a local level after what we saw with the July unrest. And what becomes important, right, when we say galvanize against the ANC as the most critical follow-through, once we have our protest action, once we express our anger, our frustration, make the headlines and make the news, we galvanize against the ANC, but it's also important to link the ANC to the very same problems that we are crying about. It's important to understand how the ANC has influenced some of these issues. Let's take the issue of illegal immigration, right, which is really important for South Africans. It's an important issue. How has the ANC influenced? How has the ANC caused this problem to spill to the extent that it has? One, the ANC has failed to keep our borders secure, to man our borders. The ANC has got no regard for the rule of law, right? Our policing, our justice systems, we are seeing it happening now with this Madlanga Commission following what Tatlam Kwanazi revealed. So, clear as ABC, how do we have this problem with illegal immigration? Because the guys that have been in charge for most of our sort of new dispensation have got no regard for the rule of law. They've got no regard for justice, for policing. They've broken these institutions. Number two, another problem that's affecting communities, particularly black communities, right, is the issue of unemployment, issues linked to the poor economic performance that South Africa currently finds itself in. How has the ANC possibly done anything in this way? How has the ANC influenced the issue of unemployment? Well, it's simple. ANC, currently, as we're seeing now, even with Ramaphosa as the leader, the so-called billionaire, they've got no respect for business. They've got no respect, no regard for private business. They are constantly agitating the United States. And I don't know, maybe for them, when they agitate the United States, maybe Ramaphosa may look back at this and say it's one of his greatest achievements. Maybe he feels like he's done something good, something noble, at the expense, however, of his own country. Whatever he has done to agitate the United States has been at the expense of his own people, his expense of South Africa, because United States being the largest economy in the world, there is no diversifying away from the United States. Do not let people fool you. There is no diversifying away from the biggest economy in the world. We have had the United States as a critical partner supporting various business sectors until recently, when we started to see pressure coming from the United States, and then the response from our own leaders has just been shocking for some of us who are pragmatic about these issues. So I'm going to close here by just reading this quote from an ANC leader, an ANC stalwart, who remains a very respected figure amongst the ANC organization, OR Tambo. I'm going to read an extract here that says, quoting directly, "Comrades, you might think it is very difficult to wage a liberation struggle. Wait until you are in power. I might be dead by then. At that stage, you will realize that it is actually more difficult to keep the power than to wage a liberation war. People will be expecting a lot of services from you. You have to satisfy the various demands of the masses of our people. In the process, be prepared to learn from other people's revolutions. Learn from the enemy also. The enemy is not necessarily doing everything wrongly. You may take his right tactics and use them to your advantage. At the same time, avoid repeating the enemy's mistakes." What I will state is that ANC campaigns like they are in a liberation struggle. That's the difference. When they're on the ground needing to get votes, when they are hustling for votes, they campaign like they're in a liberation struggle. And that gets them into power using racial messaging, using things about land expropriation and returning the land to the people, using things like we're going to expropriate, we're going to make sure that we get these property rights out of the way, hitting all of the cues just so they can get in power. And what this does to you and I, what this does to the voter when the ANC, in their different ways that they access people, using the propaganda that is based on race, that is based on the land story. That's all propaganda tactics, by the way. What that does for voters is that people, one, become super paranoid, and on the other side, on the land point, people become super fixated on something that will never ever be achieved. And I say that the land expropriation thing is completely far-fetched because the same ANC that keeps drumming on about land expropriation, likelihood is that they're not going to see that happen. They're not going to achieve it. For the simple reason that South Africa's constitution clearly states the importance of preserving property rights. So that is a serious limitation. And unless you have a two-thirds majority where you can then fix the constitution first in order for you to pass all of these acts, the ANC has got serious limitations there. But also there is strong issues of intent, right? It does not look like they've got the intention to do that. So that's the ANC. Then people will then say, oh, well, what else that is similar to the ANC, but maybe with a little bit more courage and less sort of, all of these different problems. Because I can see the idea that, no, we need someone who's going to be radical. We need someone who's going to be radical. Problem is that radical person will never be elected, especially to get a majority, never mind a two-thirds majority. That is impossible because South Africans, in the main, most people are really moderate, right? Most people are moderate when it comes to these issues. And I do not see a guy who is fixated on land expropriation without compensation winning over the minds and the hearts of people who regard themselves to be moderate. Most people are very much in the center when it comes to these political issues. So there you've got another problem. The ANC is not keen on doing it. They don't have the intention to do it. They've got limitations based on the constitution. Even if you look further left and you say, okay, well, maybe we'll bring in the EFF will just not cross over that two-thirds majority line. It is nearly impossible that they would be able to attract as many people to be able to pass such laws, such as land expropriation without compensation. Instead, what we should do is focus on how do we get stronger, because who's to say that there will never be invaders coming here ever again? How are we to know that? If you look at the scale of illegal immigration in some areas of our country, it has completely just, you forget that is South Africa just because of the way it is geographically. But if you look at the culture and how everything is moving, it's a completely different space. So who is to say that there will never be invaders ever in the future? But they will find us stranded, hoping and waiting that the ANC or whoever else from these progressive guys is going to bring back the land. Time is precious. Cool. I'm going to wrap it there and I'm going to say it again. The real change is in the ballot, is in our voting patterns. If our voting patterns stay the same year in, year out, each and every single election, we are still going to gather at the union buildings crying about these things, like I said, which are serious and things that are really impacting our day-to-day lives. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And also, as a reminder, please like this video. It goes a long way. And I'm also going to urge that you subscribe to the June podcast. I will see you guys again soon.